Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to be with us this afternoon for this webinar sponsored by the Canadian chapters of Women's Federation for World Peace, the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, and the Universal Peace Federation. As we commemorate the UN Human Rights Day, it is fitting that this webinar is addressing the topic of human rights and the freedom to believe. But first, let's take a moment to acknowledge and honor all the First Nations whose presence on this land goes back many centuries before the arrival of settlers. We are standing today on ceded and unceded territories, and we give gratitudes to our hosts. We also want to bring our attention and prayers to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and commit to end these injustices and violence. Ce webinaire est bilingue. Si vous avez besoin de traduction, veuillez utiliser l'icône d'interprétation en bas de votre écran et sélectionner la langue de votre choix. Je voudrais profiter de cette occasion pour remercier Monsieur Pierre Beauregard, notre interprète aujourd'hui. This is a bilingual webinar. If you need translation, please use the icon in shape of a globe at the bottom of your screen and select the language of your choice. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Pierre Beauregard, our interpreter for this seminar. And now, about our seminar. As the letter of invitation indicated, we will address the underreported and misunderstood issue of ongoing political suppression of religious leaders in the Republic of Korea. We are very fortunate to have three knowledgeable speakers who will share with us their insights and comments on this very topic. First, Dr. Familaro will address the question, why is Haj Jahan the mother of peace in 80 days of pretrial detention? Then Dr. Kwanze will provide an overview of international convention and declaration dealing with human rights. And finally, Professor Yuri Pankras will offer his comments in response. A question and answer session will follow the presentations. Please use the chat to share your comments and questions. Our friend Bob Duffy will manage the chat to ensure that no questions or comments will be missed. You can also, during the Q&A session, ask your question from the floor. And now let us begin, and it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Franco Familaro. Dr. Familaro is president of the Universal Peace Federation Canada. He also serves as the chair of the board of trustees of the H.J. Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership in New York City, where he earned his doctorate in ministry. With a strong interest in religious history, interfaith dialogue, and peace activism, he has served with the unification community for 50 years in Canada, Germany, the United Kingdom, Korea, Russia, and the USA. So without further ado, Dr. Franco Familaro, the floor is yours.
Well, merci, Blandine. Thank you, Blandine. And welcome, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and some unfamiliar faces there from across Canada. I know that in Vancouver it's morning, and people on the west side of the country are still enjoying the morning warm weather that you have there. And here in Eastern Canada, Toronto, Montreal, and beyond, and also the prairies. I see people here from the prairies. we're experiencing different types of weather. But we're here to talk today about not the weather, which is an easy topic for all of us, but about some very difficult issues that are confronting us. And, when speaking about religion, we all know that it's easy to talk about the bad things because there have been many things in the news, many things that have happened throughout history, whether it's the Crusades, the Inquisition, or the tragedies that have happened in residential schools here in Canada. But there's another side to religious history, as you all know, and this is that not every religion met with a warm welcome from the communities where they began or developed. Take the case of Christianity, where there were many different persecutions throughout the Roman Empire. And just when Christians thought that, okay, they could ease their guard and think that things were okay, the Emperor Diocletian in 303 conducted a systematic empire-wide persecution of the Christian community, destroying churches, executing bishops, and confiscating their scripture and destroying it if they could. And 10 years later, Christianity became a legal religion in the Roman Empire under the time of Constantine and the Edict of Milan. And we have now Christianity as a state religion just 70 or 80 years later. So things can change. And this is the story of Christianity and the story of Islam, the story of Judaism, the story of many minority religions throughout the world who've encountered challenges at the beginning. So I'd like to share a little bit about the current situation with the Mother of Peace, Hak Jahan Moon, and why she is actually, as of today, exactly 80 days in pretrial detention. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Just checking there because sometimes it's not that obvious when you're standing beside the screen. So as of today, which in Korea is December 11th, she is 80 days in trial. And why is this the case? These are the founders, the late Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his spouse Hak Jahan are the co-founders of the Family Federation, the Universal Peace Federation, and the Women's Federation for World Peace. And they have conducted activities throughout the world, and there is a presence in more than 150 countries. But right now, she is in what they call pretrial detention. No conviction, no evidence has actually been discovered yet, as far as we know. But there she is entering the trial, and the trial actually started on December 1st. She's been in a cell that looks like this. It's very small. There's a mattress on the floor where she sleeps, a little table, there's no chair, and a washroom that is visible from the outside and constantly being monitored. She's allowed to meet for about 10 minutes with family or friends and supporters, 5 at a time, 10 minutes a day, and it's recorded. And one might wonder, well, what on earth has she done that deserves this kind of treatment? And the main points is that she's been involved in illegal donations and that she's the mastermind behind political and financial misconduct that even involve the current, the former president of Korea, as well as the current administration, because it's been discovered that money was contributed to various political parties of both persuasions, left and right. So even yesterday, there was a call by the president to pursue the dissolution of this group. But we're looking at this and saying it's time for South Korea to aim at the true threats to its future, not an elderly religious leader who has actually harmed no one. On the 18th of July, there was a show of force, and our religious setting and community in the area near Seoul and throughout Korea was raided. They're looking for evidence. 1,000 police officers in buses and whatnot went there to find their evidence. They overturned everything and kind of disrespected our holy sanctuaries and the places that we hold sacred. She's been in solitary confinement since September the 23rd. It's a case built on inference and the testimony of one single insider. And we see this as selective prosecution because the smoking gun is not really there. A special prosecutor under its own shadow. The president said the quiet part out loud on December 2nd that he was looking toward the dissolution of groups that actually opposed his administration. And this case is not about one church, it's about everyone's freedom. And just today there was a gathering in the National Assembly of Korea. This just happened a few hours ago, where some 7 religious leaders from across Korea gathered to express their opposition to what the current administration is trying to do. And what we're saying in Korea and globally is that we must do something now together. So a government that can do this to one religious body can do it to any religious body. What happened on July 18th was not an isolated action. They did this to several other Christian churches in Korea. It was a demonstration of both the capacity and willingness of the government to go after not only minority groups, but some that were quite major. The other one that comes to mind is the Church of Pastor Saab, the Seguro Church. And he is the leader of a mega church, Pastor Son, in Busan, that has like some 3,000 members in Busan, and he has been in detention since September 8th. He's Presbyterian. It's an established church. The only thing is that he spoke out against some of the actions of the current government. And it reveals that the scope of authority the state is prepared to use when it believes its target will not be defended. So if the government can raid churches with overwhelming force, place elderly religious leaders like Hak Jahan Moon in solitary confinement without direct evidence, and enforce political funding laws selectively, then we have a problem. They can jail religious leaders for preaching their values, borrow from Japan's harshest tactics against religious organizations, and justify it all with warnings of religious war. This is the thing that they're saying, that If they don't stop these religious groups, there will be religious war in Korea. It's a very long stretch. So then the issue extends far beyond one church or one trial. A government can do these things to one small community, can do them to any community. And it touches the foundation of freedom itself, because it's the understanding of many that the first right is the right to believe what you want to believe. As long as you don't harm anybody, as long as you don't create any criminal act, the basic foundation of freedom is to believe what you want to believe. Therefore, religious freedom is the first freedom that should be established in any society. Now, I'd like to read to you an excerpt of Hak Jahan's statement on December 1st when she first appeared in trial. This is an excerpt, it's not the whole thing. She said, "Even after passing the age of 80, I have lived with the dream of attending the Creator, our heavenly parent here on earth. Knowing this, I devoted my entire life of 80 years to fulfilling that dream. I have no interest in the politics of this nation. My entire life, instead, I have educated people while praying for world peace, for one human family, and for all people who attend God, our heavenly parent, to become true families, receive heavenly parents' love, God's love, and ultimately go to heaven. For this reason, political, religious leaders, and scholars around the world know me as the Mother of Peace, as the Holy Mother Han. Regarding this case as well, since they have observed me for a long time, it is true that they are deeply concerned about the current situation. Many high-level figures sincerely hope that this trial will be conducted according to proper democratic principles. And finally, I am not the kind of person that the special prosecutor describes. I have absolutely no fear before heaven. I love heaven." And she also added, "Why don't you come and visit us at Gapyeong, where we have our holy sites, so that we can show you around and what we're doing." So that is my very brief presentation about the situation. There's a lot more to say, and I've prepared some notes for later during the Q&A, during the question and answers. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to engaging with you in this gathering. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Famalaro, for this important message and explaining the situation so clearly. Because it's very important that we have all this information available. So thank you again. Et maintenant, j'ai le grand honneur de présenter Dr. Titin Kwenze. Dr. Kwenze est docteur en droit international. Ses recherches portent principalement sur le droit international pénal, les peines et l'emprisonnement, ainsi que les droits humains. Elle enseigne le droit international pénal à l'Université Laval et accompagne les chercheurs dans la réalisation de leurs projets de recherche. Dr. Kwenze, tu as le micro.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. Est-ce que vous m'entendez bien?
Okay.
Oui. Bonjour à tous. J'ai l'honneur de vous présenter les droits humains et la liberté de conscience. Je vais, avant d'aborder la question des droits humains, de la liberté de la conscience directement, je vais vous parler rapidement de la Convention contre la torture et autres peines ou traitements cruels, inhumains ou dégradants. Maintenant que vous avez écouté ce qui se passe en Corée en ce moment, comment les leaders religieux sont poursuivis, comment la mère de la paix est poursuivie, je vais mettre à votre disposition les règles internationales relatives à la torture et aux peines ou traitements cruels, inhumains ou dégradants pour permettre d'avoir une idée de ce qui se passe et vous serez en mesure vous-même de qualifier la situation actuelle en Corée. Alors, la Convention contre la torture, c'est une convention internationale qui, justement, définit le fait pour un agent de police, un agent de la paix, pour un gouvernement, une personne qui agit officiellement au nom de l'État, d'imposer, de poser des actes qui euh, euh, implique de la douleur, entraîne de la douleur ou des souffrances aiguës, physiques ou mentales à l'égard d'un individu. Ça peut être sous plusieurs formes. Ça peut être le fait de détenir un individu dans une prison pour des raisons non qui ne sont pas claires. Ça peut être une détention provisoire trop longue. Ça peut être des conditions de détention qui ne sont pas normales. Ça peut être un interrogatoire qui dure trop longtemps, pendant 24 heures, 30 heures, 7 heures, trop longtemps et qui ne respecte pas la condition de la personne. Ça, c'est la définition de la torture ou encore des peines, des traitements cruels, inhumains ou dégradants. Ensuite de ça, l'article 16 oblige les différents États à prendre des mesures pour arrêter, poursuivre en fait et condamner toutes les personnes qui sont coupables d'actes de torture. Et ça, les avocats ont la possibilité, les individus qui sont victimes d'actes de torture ont la possibilité de poursuivre les personnes concernées devant les juridictions, tant nationales qu'internationales. Au niveau international, ce sont les commissions internationales qui s'occupent de le faire. Ensuite, je fais un lien avec la Corée du Sud, dont on vient de parler tout à l'heure. La Corée du Sud a ratifié la Convention contre la torture en 1995. Quand je dis ratifié, ça veut dire que c'est une convention qui est appliquée en Corée du Sud, qui a été introduite dans les lois sud-coréennes et les Coréens ont l'obligation de respecter leur engagement à l'égard de cette convention internationale. Donc, ils doivent prévenir tout acte de torture. Et donc, les avocats, je vais le dire rapidement comme ça, les avocats de Madame Ak Jae-myung peuvent intenter des actions pour torture parce que quand on regarde, d'après ce que le docteur Franco vient de nous expliquer, quand on regarde le temps de l'interrogatoire qu'elle a subi, on regarde son âge, on regarde les conditions de détention, on regarde la période de détention qui aujourd'hui est à presque 3 mois, elle est beaucoup trop longue. Donc tout ça peut nous permettre de conclure qu'il s'agit bien de violation de la Convention contre la torture. Maintenant, après cette présentation-là, je m'en vais aujourd'hui, comme a dit Blandine tout à l'heure, c'est 77 ans, on célèbre 77 ans de la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme. Donc, je vais vous parler rapidement de la liberté de conscience. Franco a évoqué cette liberté fondamentale et combien importante dans son propos tout à l'heure. Moi, je m'en vais vous rappeler les dispositions de la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme. La Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme nous dit à son article 18, toute personne a droit à la liberté de pensée, de conscience et de religion. Ce droit implique la liberté de changer de religion et de conviction ainsi que la liberté de manifester sa religion et sa conviction seule ou en commun, tant en public qu'en privé, par l'enseignement, les pratiques, le culte et l'accomplissement des rites. C'est très, très important de connaître et de réaliser en fait que c'est une liberté qui est protégée de façon universelle. C'est vraiment un droit universel et la liberté de religion est un droit fondamental. Ça fait partie des droits les plus fondamentaux. Ce droit-là, il est protégé également par le pacte international relatif aux droits civils et politiques. L'article 18 de ce pacte nous dit que toute personne a droit à la liberté de pensée, de conscience et de religion. Ce droit implique la liberté d'avoir ou d'adopter une religion ou une conviction de son choix, ainsi que la liberté de manifester sa religion ou sa conviction individuellement ou en commun, tant en public qu'en privé, par le culte et l'accomplissement des rites, les pratiques et l'enseignement. Nul ne subira de contraintes pouvant porter atteinte à sa liberté d'avoir ou d'adopter une religion ou une conviction de son choix. Et là, on se rend compte, d'après la présentation du docteur Franco, que les personnes religieuses, les leaders religieux sont poursuivis en Corée, sont attaqués en Corée. Pourquoi? Parce qu'ils ont des convictions religieuses, juste parce qu'ils ont la foi et qu'ils ont des convictions, qu'elles soient chrétiennes ou autres. Pour la plupart, c'est des chrétiens en ce moment. Alors, ce droit, c'est un droit qui transcende les cultures. Il transcende les cultures et c'est un idéal commun. Pour la petite histoire, la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme a été proposée par une Américaine dans les années 48. Et vous savez que les États-Unis, leur fondement, c'est la liberté religieuse. Les gens qui se sont réunis pour créer les États-Unis d'Amérique, ce sont des personnes qui ont quitté l'Europe où ils fuyaient la persécution religieuse. Donc, cette liberté de religion, elle est vraiment essentielle et fondamentale pour la dignité humaine et la paix mondiale. Et le texte du Pacte international relatif aux droits civils et politiques, c'est un texte contraignant. Ça veut dire que la violation de ce droit fondamental par un État donne la possibilité aux personnes qui sont victimes d'une violation de la liberté de religion de saisir les instances internationales. Donc, elles ont la possibilité de poursuivre les États. Généralement, c'est les États qui sont connus coupables de violer la liberté de religion, de les poursuivre en saisissant les instances internationales comme la Commission internationale des droits de l'homme. Ensuite, on va parler de la Corée, bien sûr, parce qu'on est en Corée aujourd'hui. La Constitution sud-coréenne garantit la liberté de religion et interdit toute discrimination fondée sur les convictions. L'État est officiellement neutre et n'impose aucune religion. La société sud-coréenne est marquée par une grande diversité religieuse. On y retrouve le bouddhisme, le christianisme, le protestantisme, le confucianisme, pardon, et de nouvelles religions locales. Le christianisme est particulièrement influent dans la vie publique et politique. Donc, ce qui se passe en ce moment en Corée, comme l'a expliqué le docteur Franco, c'est vraiment une situation, entre guillemets, là, je vais me permettre de le dire, de violation massive et importante des droits humains. La liberté religieuse et aussi les droits humains qui sont liés à la personne physique à cause de la torture qu'on observe en ce moment, parce que les personnes religieuses sont, entre guillemets, torturées. Ensuite, quels sont les défis et les controverses qu'on rencontre aujourd'hui dans la société coréenne? L'intolérance et les discriminations. Certains rapports internationaux signalent des cas de marginalisation de minorités religieuses et de mouvements considérés comme sectaires. Aujourd'hui, il y a des observateurs à l'extérieur, des ONG internationales qui observent la situation en Corée et qui sont en train de sortir des rapports sur ce qui se passe en Corée. Il y a des pressions sociales. Dans certains milieux, les personnes sans religieux ou appartenant à des minorités peuvent subir des discriminations implicites. Et aujourd'hui, et de plus en plus avec ce qui est en train de se passer, les décisions du président, ben, les membres de l'Église de l'unification sont en danger, ils sont menacés éventuellement et risquent de l'être à cause de ces décisions qui sont prises. Et les différents débats en ce moment, c'est les controverses ont éclaté en 2025 autour des manifestations dénonçant les violations de la liberté religieuse et une montée de l'intolérance en Corée. L'édition 2025 du rapport de l'aide à l'Église en détresse souligne que même si la Corée du Sud n'est pas classée parmi les pays les plus répressifs, des tensions subsistent et nécessitent une vigilance accrue. Donc en ce moment, ben, les organisations internationales observent ce qui se passe en Corée et c'est extrêmement préoccupant. Alors pour conclure, 77 ans après les défis, les défis restent entiers en Corée du Sud et à travers le monde, parce qu'il n'y a pas que la Corée où la liberté religieuse est violée et où on rencontre des actes de torture ou des traitements inhumains. C'est un petit peu partout à travers le monde. Et aujourd'hui, alors qu'on célèbre 77 ans de la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme, on doit tous être sensibilisés en fait à cette problématique et à cette question combien importante. Mais nous sommes tous ensemble des porteurs d'espoir, car nous avons cru et voulons continuer de croire aux idéaux portés par la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme de 1948. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you. Et merci beaucoup, Dr. Kwenze, pour cette présentation et cet exposé très informatif. Cela nous donne à réfléchir et aussi ça nous appelle à agir. Encore un grand merci. And now, our final speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Yuri Pankrast. Professor Pankrast is teaching Introduction to Linguistic, Cognitive Science, Language, Culture and Society, Psychology of Languages at the Linguistics Department, Simon Fraser University in British Columbia. He's also, since September 2006, Professor and Director of the Program and Language Development Center at the Royal Canadian Institute of Technology and Communication. And in 2023, he accepted the position of Global Vice President of Sun Moon University in South Korea. Dr. Pankrast is the founding board member of University Prep Educational Society of British Columbia and a board member of the Foundation for the Children of Chernobyl. We can see how busy Professor Pankrast is, and it's so we are so grateful that you have accepted to take the time to be with us today. So, Professor Pankrast, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and my best regards from beautiful Vancouver, though it's rainy just now. So before starting my presentation, I want to express solidarity. I think that what is happening with Dr. Han Moon is absolutely unprecedented, because not only because of her age, and not only because she is in pretrial detention, but because she never was and never is the threat to public, to investigation, and so on. That's why I almost guarantee that in any democratic country, maybe except South Korea, I don't know, in Europe or in North America, she would never be in pretrial detention at her age and in this particular case. I almost guarantee this. This is very strange and, very difficult to accept. And I hope that we are all not accepting it. And I was sure, by the way, but that on the 1st of December, she would be released from this pretrial detention. But I think never happened. And it's very strange. And we need unite all the forces in order to somehow change this strange decision of the South Korean court or whatever. Now, I'm going to cover in my short presentation only one topic related to the case, which I am calling Russian versus Ukrainian Orthodoxy case, because it is related to the direct, connection between the Russian Orthodox Church and the authoritarian regime of Putin and his people in Russia. Practically, the Russian Orthodox Church became a direct mouthpiece of Putin in Russia. And I'm sure that many of you know this. Some of you maybe don't, because you don't follow. We have so many events happening in this world. But I want to underline this, that there are many videos of Russian Orthodox Church leaders blessing the Russian troops, many of which consist of criminals, killers, rapists, released from prisons on the condition that they would join the troops in Ukraine. By the way, it's a paradox now. Many prisons in Russia are empty because their clients, well, have been released. Well, so the Russian Orthodox Church urging the Russian military personnel not to be gentle and kind, but the opposite, to kill Ukrainians. By the way, they are Slavic brothers and sisters for hundreds of years, using the pretext that they are fighting for their motherland. Though Ukraine has been an independent country for more than 30 years, and Russia is an aggressor, and well, practically Ukraine is the victim of this aggression. It's for close to 4 years. It's my mistake. Close to 11 years, because practically it started in 2014. Well, 1,150,000 dead, wounded bodies without legs, arms, eyes, young and not so young men in Russia. Practically, it became a meat grinder in Ukraine. Many Ukrainians were killed in action, and every night, adults, seniors, and children, they are dying under the bombs of Russia. As many of you know, Putin practically provided full green lights to one denomination, Christian denomination in Russia, the Russian Orthodox Church, that is allowed to operate without any restrictions, enjoying full legal status. And it's allowed to own property, import literature, rent services, have clergy registered under the so-called 1997 Law on Freedom of Conscience and Religion Association. But other denominations, whether they were Christian or non-Christians, recognized with some restrictions. Others even are banned, and some others even were proclaimed as extremist organizations. If you look at at Islam, for example, so it is okay, but only in the regions of Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, Chechnya, and Dagestan, some others. Now, the Federation of Jewish Community of Russia and the Congress of Jewish Religion Organizations function with some restrictions and is monitored all the time. Buddhism in regions of Buryatia and Kalmykia and Tuva. But other Christian denominations can function, but with very specific restrictions, like Roman Catholic Diocese in Moscow, Saratov, Novosibirsk, Irkutsk. That's it. Lutheran Church only where the German population resides. Some Baptist unions. Pentecostal Church faces periodically, some pressure from the government. Seventh-day Adventist and official registered, but they experience many restrictions today. Well, some other religious groups, are practically, as I mentioned, banned completely, like many evangelical groups have been banned. Most Scientology organizations banned. Jehovah's Witnesses even, proclaimed as the terrorist groups. Well, practically the only church that has no restriction is the Russian Orthodox Church in Russia. And that's why I want to ask you, the audience, the question, whether we can call it the freedom of conscience and religious association if only one denomination, Russian Orthodox Church, has no restrictions, no monitoring, and has all legal status in the country, while others are restricted in their operation and so on. Putin proclaimed the so-called traditional values and some right Christian circles in USA and even in the West in general have been
Dr. Pankras,
attracted.
you
Yes.
have 2 more minutes to finish.
Okay, thank you.
Eh.
So they were attracted by its opposing the so-called Western liberalism, but these values proclaiming the importance of traditional family, but in reality are never followed in Russia. Putin himself, after divorcing his wife, secretly has some lovers and even 2 children were born from them. So one of the 28 points of the peace talk by United States, but practically created by Russia, was to accept the Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine. And I want to ask you the second question because of this, finishing my presentation. Should Ukraine, following the human rights and following the freedom to believe, to accept the Russian Orthodox Church on the territory of Ukraine, though it is killing so many Ukrainians, and not only Ukrainians, but many Russian-speaking people. For example, yesterday there were bombs in Kharkov, which is a Russian-speaking city, only 20 kilometers from the border with Russia. This is my second question, which I want to practically ask all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Pankrat. It's good to be reminded that there are issues of human rights and the freedom to believe in many other countries other than South Korea. And thank you for all that well-documented information about the situation between Ukraine and the Soviet Union. This concludes the first part of our program. We have time now for question and answers. Please use the reaction button on the bottom of your screen if you have a question that you want to ask one of the speakers. But first, we will review the question in the chat. Bob, please lead us with the first question. Thank you.
Okay, we've got just a couple of things here based on the interesting presentations. First of all, quite early on, Shaheen Ashraf mentioned, I think when in reference to one of the statements from the United Nations, UNDHR, she said, "Show this article to our premier. It is binding." And of course, it's in reference to the fact that freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, freedom of belief, and so on. Of course, most of the nations that are represented in the United Nations signed on to these declarations, and most of them ratified their signatures in their respective parliaments, so that they became actual part of their legal framework. And yet, time and time again, states, nations ignore their own commitments, and this is certainly the case in South Korea. It's certainly the case in Russia, as one of the P5, the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, ignoring the mandate of the Security Council itself to prevent war in the world, starting a war itself. So the hypocrisy in states in terms of living up to their rights obligations is pretty disgraceful. I think that's what Shaheen was referring to, but please respond. I didn't mean to respond to it. I I ask whichever of the panelists would like to respond to that point. Fourth point in the chat.
Okay. Whether Quebec has signed on to the convention, but I'll take on David's question first here, if you don't mind. There is an expectation that a country like Korea, because he's asking about Korea's legal system, is it similar to the Western practice given a short history of democracy? And, Korea democratic system hasn't really been in place for 40 years yet. And they also have some traditions there that anytime a new regime comes in, they try to destroy the predecessor. This has been going on for 70 years. And although we're kind of impressed with LG, with Samsung, with Hyundai, Kia cars, and what else? Gangnam and Korean pop, and so many things that have been spreading around the world from Korea. You can even find Korean food in just about anywhere now. But this country has a lot to learn in terms of its democratic practices. It's not there yet because there are multiple views in Korea. There are many different factions. The people from different parts of Southern Korea have different perspectives on things. It's going to take time for democratic principles. Now, we have made appeals about the situation of Mother Han, of the Mother of Peace. We have gone there, but the idea that she's a mastermind of a massive effort to influence the government and turn Korea into a theocracy is ridiculous. More so, she doesn't really have a political motivation. I mean, to think that a little group like ours wants to take over the country is ludicrous. And this is being portrayed in the media and other places, but oftentimes these organs don't really reflect reality. Korea is not a one religion state. 30% of the population is Christian, and they do hold a lot of sway. The rest of the population is either Buddhist or practices folk religion, or they have no religion at all. Like many people in Canada and Europe and the United States, people don't identify with any religion. So, is there a criminal case? None. Why are they keeping her? Oh, they're afraid that she's going to leave the country. But they already have her passport. How is she going to do this? Get on a rowboat and sail to China? Or, I mean, it's not going to happen. And that she's going to destroy evidence? Well, she's practically blind because she has very serious issues with her eyes. In fact, during her detention, she had to come out for some form of surgery. So this is what we're facing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Famularo. Now, I have a question from Cheryl. Cheryl Marseille, I think the name is. It's political motivations are being used to persecute community and religious leaders and political rivals. We're seeing dangerous prisoners being released back into the community by the U.S. president and individuals who is corrupt and seeks to stay in power. All these persecutions around the world are about greed and power grabs. They need to control people who have a moral conscience in order to stop any opposition to their agenda. Unfortunately, we may see this arise in many nations. That's a comment from Sherry, I should say. Anyone want to comment on the comment?
maybe the comment, we can read them, but we have also two people, Alan and Earl Smith, who would like to ask a question from the floor. So if,
Okay,
maybe we should focus on the question themselves.
great. Who's has, okay, so we have, let me change my view here. I'm looking at the panel, which is not very productive. I'm going to look at the, so Earl, would you like to ask a question?
Well, I think Alan had his hand up earlier,
Oh,
but
Alan was first. Well, shall we
Yeah.
start with Alan then?
why not?
Can
Okay,
you hear
Alan.
me? Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes.
Everybody. When you go to Vancouver and you go up Boundary Road, you see on your right a park. And in that park is a statue to Korean veterans, Canadian Korean veterans, to over 600 lives that were sacrificed to save Korea from communist in the Korean War, and it's kind of reminds me the price that has been paid already for freedom in Korea, and I think that point should be pressed. Secondly, my second part of my question is, we had quoted the Human Rights Declaration, but what mechanisms exist to actually enforce it? I mean, we may say, okay, you've done this, we're going to drag your sorry self to court, but is that taking place, or is it just a kind of nice statement to make? Could somebody comment, maybe a professor who told us about this particular human rights, and I've heard it
Yep,
before.
I'm with
Oui,
you.
merci
Okay.
beaucoup. Merci Pierre
Yep.
pour la traduction. Effectivement, il y a une procédure. La procédure, on peut avoir l'impression qu'elle est un petit peu complexe, mais c'est possible de saisir la Commission internationale des droits de l'homme. La Commission internationale des droits de l'homme, elle reçoit des communications des individus, des groupes, des organisations. Ils peuvent ils peuvent envoyer une lettre dans laquelle ils expliquent la situation des violations massives qui ont lieu. Et la commission va pouvoir travailler là-dessus. Cependant, d'un point de vue procédural, du point de vue de la procédure pure, le droit international des droits humains nous explique qu'il faut d'abord que l'individu ait épuisé les voies de recours internes. Lorsqu'il est victime d'une violation relative aux droits humains, peu importe que ce soit la torture ou autre type de violation, il doit d'abord saisir la juridiction de son État. Et au niveau de son État, il doit épuiser toutes les voies de recours. Ça veut dire, il va au tribunal de première instance, ça marche pas, il va en appel, ça marche pas, il va à la cour. Et en Corée, j'ai regardé la procédure coréenne, ben c'est la haute cour de Séoul qui pourrait entendre de ces situations de violation-là. Et s'ils n'ont pas gain de cause au niveau de la haute cour, à ce moment-là, ils peuvent s'adresser à la Commission internationale des droits de l'homme. Mais il est possible de passer directement par la Commission quand on est capable de prouver qu'au niveau de l'État coréen, c'est quasiment impossible d'arriver jusqu'à la haute cour. On est capable de prouver le manque de volonté de l'État de trouver, de répondre en fait aux problèmes, aux violations des droits de l'homme. On peut directement aller à la Commission. On peut également faire un plaidoyer. Ce qu'on appelle un plaidoyer, c'est un petit peu, on prépare un texte et puis on explique toutes les violations qui sont en train de se produire et on fait une demande bien précise pour que cessent les violations. Mais l'autre chose importante que je voulais dire, c'est que on ne peut pas fouetter les États. Tout ce que la Commission peut faire, c'est prendre une décision et forcer l'État coréen à agir, mais pas plus que ça. Il va leur dire, ben, vous devez agir, vous devez arrêter les violations. Ça va pas aller plus loin. Pour avoir des décisions coercitives plus sévères, il faut aller au Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies. Voilà.
OK, merci beaucoup, Dr. Kwenze, pour ces réponses. Bob, I think we can go to the next question.
So then, Earl,
Am I? Yeah, that would
I
be
may add
good.
something here.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand
Sorry,
the
Earl,
French part.
go ahead.
But I'm on the same track. I was wondering, has any complaint been filed to any of the international courts at this point with respect to the treatment, the whole persecution that's going on down there? And then my other thought, as we were just listening here, was uh, I was wondering if there's not a in the federal government uh, a small sometimes some of the members of parliament are part of a, not a task force, but that overlook various legal or work on like international complaints and human rights violations. So I don't know if we have anybody like that in Canada, but I think it would be well worth pursuing to find out if there is some Canadians that could be brought to bear or something from our government. But I think it would have to be federal. That's just my
I'll
suggestion.
venture a question to, will venture an answer to Earl's question. Thank you, Earl. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too, Franco.
You look younger than the first time I saw you 50 years ago.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good yourself.
I would say that usually we're referred to the international offices and specifically the UN office in Geneva, which is focused on human rights. And we have made those approaches. The UN rapporteurs actually sent something. The issue is that we're also contending with the cultural reality in Korea.
Yeah.
In Korea, there is a almost, they don't want to embarrass their own country. And so they hesitate to be exposed in this kind of situation. And what we experienced with Japan prior to this situation in Korea is that the Japanese government ignored the United Nations request. They requested to go there and to check things out and make a report, and they've ignored them consistently for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So with Korea, it's the same kind of situation. We're dealing with two things. Our legal team internationally has already done what it had to do with the UN office in Geneva. The issue is the lawyers in Korea, some of them who were former prosecutors, hesitate. Former prosecutors for the current government, by the way.
Mm.
The legal team is composed of people like this. They hesitate to disturb the atmosphere. But in the last few days, it's become even more critical because they're talking now about dissolving organizations that they don't agree with. And this is causing quite a stir in Korea. One of my friends just this morning told me everywhere that he goes, in every coffee shop, in every subway, in every restaurant, that's all people are talking about is the situation that we're facing. And that the government and the president himself has been talking about shutting down groups that he doesn't like.
Wow.
This is far away from the democratic institutions and forms of government that we'd like to see. And I know that this is not just in Korea. It's not just in communist China. We're experiencing similar things in Canada. I hate to say it, but currently there's something called Bill number 9 in Quebec, not to be confused with Bill number 9 in the federal government, where the federal government's issue is about hate speech.
Right.
But here it's about religion in general. And so one of the things they came up with is that, well, yes, you can wish people a Merry Christmas because it's part of Quebec culture and tradition. But don't think about Jesus when you're wishing someone a Merry Christmas. You should think about the elves, about Santa Claus, about jingle bells, but nothing religious. So they've gotten to the point where they even want to control what we think. And we're in dangerous territory now. Institutions are it's being recommended, and there's a lot of opposition to it, that in public spaces, in daycares run by the government, they don't want to allow special diets for people who have religious convictions, like halal or kosher, etc.
Right.
So we're going into extremely dangerous territory everywhere. And I think as people of faith, regardless of our background, I see people here who are Christian, who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are Buddhist, who are Baha'i, who are of whichever background. We may disagree about our religious doctrines and our beliefs and our traditions and our rituals, but one thing we should all bind together on is that religious freedom is for everybody, and we can and should be respectful of each other.
Well, I agree, and I hope, I pray that somehow you get justice in this situation. Thank you, Franco.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our time is coming to a close. Maybe we can have one last question, and then after that we will close our session. Thank you so much for all the interest and the comments. This is a very, very important discussion. So Bob, could you, I don't know, Alan, do you still have a question? Your
I
hand
just
is
want to
up.
shout out to Hannah Reitman. Her brother is experiencing very difficult times because of persecution of Christians. She came from Pakistan, and also we did have with us Dr. Stephen from Nigeria. He also had experience of religious persecution. And also I have other contacts, and Sherry, who is leading an interfaith organization that I belong to. And not to mention Yuri's contribution to that organization recently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to mention just a couple of comments in the comment section. There's one from Hannah Ratman about Christians in Malaysia. Alan referred to that. There's another couple of comments from Hannah Massoud, and I think she's in Montreal here, regarding Bill 9 in Quebec. And Bill 9 in Quebec clearly fails to respect human rights and freedom of belief. It effectively forces Muslim women to remove their hijab if they want to work, which is unacceptable to Muslims. It's shocking that something like this could be considered in a country like Canada. So just to show, and then Robert Tyre mentions that history has shown that during times of providential change, difficult situations happen. Susan Kerr asks, what would you like us to do? I don't know if we have an answer to that, but if someone wants to suggest an action plan, just go ahead.
Well, at this point is to be informed about the situation, and also we will, you see, we've been watching the situation and trying to think of what we can do. And we've asked many of our friends globally to write to the current leadership in Korea. We've had that happen, but there's different ideas, petitions and whatnot, but we're waiting for this trial to go forward. And now it's in its second week. They have one session a week, by the way. And I wish I had a ready and clear answer for you, but I don't, but we will come back to you.
Okay, on this note, I think we will close our webinar. Thank you again for all of you for taking the time to come and for your question, your interest, your comments. And we certainly, this is just the beginning of our journey. Please stay in touch with us, and we'll keep you informed of all the development and what else we can do. Thank you for that question. Thank you again, and have a wonderful afternoon and and happy holiday season to all of you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Okay.
See.
Thank you.
Bonne journée.
Goodbye.
Bonne journée.
Bye-bye. Bonne journée.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Voilà.